Hello, welcome to the House of Wellness. Great to be alongside Dr. Nick Carr, Jacqui Felgate, Joe Stanley. Good to see you guys on International Women's Day. Joe, something I know you are very passionate about, as we all should be.
Absolutely. And 2024's theme is Inspire Inclusion, which is all about the United Nations goal of reaching gender equality by 2030. Got a lot of work to do, I've got to say.
I would agree.
Now and then.
Well, of course, being a woman is being a mum for me and raising the next generation of amazing women. And today's theme is kids and parenting.
And we'll calm those fears that hit when kids have a high temperature, because it turns out that reaching for the quick fix is not necessarily the best option.
And stick around, Nick, for ways to clean up the mountain of tech in our lives with a digital detox. I'm looking forward to hearing about that one.
Kids' dental care is under the spotlight, especially in some areas facing a surprising challenge.
We'll get the expert take on the TikTok trend of adult skincare for tweens. I know all about this.
So let's start with a topic, Jack, that has got parents, including you, I believe, very, very fired up. And that's school lunches and what we can and can't put in our kids' lunch boxes. And I understand there is now a no-go list of things that we're not allowed to include in school lunches.
Yeah, so particularly in South Australia, it's fairy bread, and in WA, it's ham. They've actually put the ham and cheese toastie on a red list, not to be sold. Well, they've limited the sales.
I'm sorry, but I have a 7-year-old and a 12-year-old. Getting them to eat anything is hard enough, and having the time to make a lunch. Dr. Nick, is it so bad if I pack them a healthy lunch that maybe includes a ham sandwich, they have some fruit as well? Like, what's the big deal?
Yeah, tricky one, Jack, because ham is actually a cured meat, which does have potentially carcinogenic properties, so maybe not the healthiest option. Plus, on a really hot day in that warm lunchbox, they can grow some nasty bacteria. Plus, fairy bread may be a party food, but some of those so-called healthy snacks actually contain more sugar.
Well, I think the thing that's got parents really riled up more than anything is schools being able to dictate to parents what they can and can't serve their kids. What do we think about that?
Oh.
Well, look, I understand it is really hard to get your kids to eat lunch. There's nothing breaks your heart more than opening a lunchbox at the end of the day.
Correct.
And it's full of food. But, you know, you've got to sneak things in, I find. For us, it's always been dip, which somehow she'll eat the carrots if there's some lovely dip there with it.
That's good, yeah. Well, I think it's ridiculous we're actually having this discussion about what goes in the lunch when so many people, not just here in Australia, but right around the world, can't afford to put any food in a school lunchbox. And that's where an amazing service called Eat Up comes into play.
Lyndon Galea was 25 years old when he learnt about a local crisis that soon began to eat away at him.
I'd read a local newspaper story in Shepparton that profiled kids at 2 schools in town who were regularly being sent to school without food from home, and come lunchtime were just missing out, and I was completely shocked. I love Shepparton. It's my hometown. It's an area I'll always care about very, very deeply, and I wanted to do something to help. And I was living with Mum and Dad, pinched what I could from Mum's cupboard: bread, cheese, margarine, Vegemite, bought some extra loaves and made 100 sandwiches for those first 2 schools.
Lyndon's simple act of kindness was warmly received, but it quickly dawned on him that just one delivery wasn't going to cut it.
Teachers were often filling these gaps themselves and spending money from their own pockets, making extra lunches themselves. And really it was the fact that they called back so quickly after that first drop and said, "Thanks, mate, that was a really great help. We'll have some more of those." And I just hadn't really thought that far. According to Food Bank Australia's research, 1 in 5 Australian kids have experienced food insecurity at some point over the past 12 months, which means essentially when they've been hungry and looking for a meal, they haven't been able to access that, which is a really heartbreaking statistic across Australia. The need stems from highly pressured financial circumstances at home, and there can be a multitude of factors that puts families in those circumstances, whether it's job loss, whether it's recently arriving in Australia, whether it's redundancies, whether it's substance issues. The need can really ebb and flow around the welfare payment cycle. So the need drops right down when a new payment arrives, which is really encouraging because it shows that parents want to and are feeding their kids when they've got the means to. But often in those final few days before a new payment arrives, where money's really at its scarcest, the need can really spike.
I've been feeling so good.
Determined to address this nationwide need, Lyndon founded Eat Up, Australia's only organisation providing free lunches for students on a national scale.
So Eat Up is an enormous collaboration. It's a collaboration between incredible companies who donate their product or funds, through generous volunteers who make the sandwiches we deliver at an enormous scale, and then our team who manage and deliver those lunches directly to schools. The real heart of what we do is volunteering events, and in our case, we work with a lot of corporate groups in the capital cities, which gives us this enormous supply. So today we've been working with a law firm in Melbourne. We load up our van, we come on site, whether it's an open plan office, a boardroom, a kitchenette area. We'll put table covers on, gloves for everybody, bring all the cling wrap, all the ingredients. So we try and make our volunteering events for workplaces as easy and accessible as possible.
Got them there.
With about that 20 volunteers, they can generally make 1,000 sandwiches in an hour, which is massive.
We've got a good production line going. It's all systems go, and everyone's got their role to play. So it's been good, and as long as everyone's kind of going full steam ahead, we're making those sandwiches really quickly.
It feels great. You know, we're lawyers. We don't normally do this stuff. We do a lot of pro bono work, helping people with legal issues. But this is a really physical thing that you can sit there, and at the end of the session you can see there's 1,000 sandwiches there, and the guys that Eat Up are great. They tell you all about what they're doing and who it's going to benefit. So it becomes really real as you're doing it. You know you're doing something to help someone, which is great.
We deliver those sandwiches to schools fresh, but in bulk. We'll give them enough for 3 weeks with each drop-off. The schools then freeze those sandwiches, so simple cheese sandwich, and they'll generally toast those lunches up.
1,000, easy.
For staff members like Laylaw Gardens Primary School Principal Fraser Thomas, the impact that a humble cheese toastie and a few recess snacks can have on a child's well-being is crystal clear.
A child going hungry makes a huge difference in a school. You can see straight away if a child has eaten or not eaten because of their concentration levels for one, their engagement, and as we know, we all behave differently when we're hungry, and that can cause frustration at times for those students. It can cause a little bit of an outburst or some anger at times, and there's lots of really good examples of things we've seen where Eat Up has had a huge impact in the students' just day-to-day living at school.
Which 3 senses did we use today?
It's always really heartwarming, the feedback we get from the schools, and often we get to hear directly back from the teachers, and just hearing about the difference it makes in the classroom, that kids are enjoying their school more. We even hear things like it's helping to improve attendance. So we've heard stories where parents have been reluctant to send their kids to school at all when they haven't been able to provide lunch through fear of the repercussions of being identified in those circumstances. But the teachers can often reach out to home and say, look, there's a service here for that. Certainly we encourage you to provide a meal and lunch for your kids when you're able to, but on the occasions that you can't, still absolutely send your kids to school. Really, for me, like from time to time we'll drop off and it'll just happen to cross over with lunchtime, and the biggest sort of thrill for me is when from time to time you'll see a child access one of the lunches and just sort of skip off into the playground with a smile on their face as if nothing's different about that. It's just that their day is just as special, just as precious as any others, and there's nothing to be embarrassed about. You can just see that sense of confidence, of strength, and of real joy.
A decade on from Lyndon's first sandwich drop-off, today Eat Up supports over 750 schools across Australia.
We've now delivered over 3 million lunches, and that's completely thanks to volunteers and incredible team and supporters who have made that scale possible. It's always very much bittersweet, of course. We're really proud of the impact we've been able to have and very moved by the backing that we receive, but to also see the scale of the need and the fact that it's so big, and any growth means that there's more need out there. So we've got a lot more work to go yet, but we've always been filled with this belief that the goodwill and the community generosity is even bigger than that need. So we've got a really sort of strong confidence that we can support at the level. It's just going to take a little bit of time, but we're really convinced that we can do it.
Well, the kids are back at school and I hear a collective sigh of relief from just about every parent. But if it is the first year for your child, then it's a big year for both you and your preppy, and we want it to be a good one. For your child to settle in, to master the basics, to make some friends and to enjoy the learning environment. But here's something every parent should know. There's 8 core skills that if your child masters before they even start school will most likely mean they'll be managing literacy and numeracy very well throughout the primary years. If they can recognise numbers 1 to 10, it's a great start. Read complex words, count to 20, remember things easily, attach sounds to letters, use one-on-one correspondence, write his or her own name in English, and be aware of the direction of writing in English. It doesn't mean that every child should have these skills when starting school, but those that do have better success in tests like NAPLAN than those from similar socioeconomic backgrounds.
Thanks, Jack. I'm not sure how many of those 8 preschool skills I tick off most days. Well, after the break, we debunk some myths surrounding kids and fevers. That's next on House of Wellness.
Well, Jack, we all know the benefits of quitting smoking for your heart health, your lung health and your overall health in general. We know it's not an easy thing to do to quit smoking, but I've seen a lot of people I know recently quit with pretty good success.
Darcy, as you say, there are so many benefits, but of course the big one, reducing your risk of lung and other cancers. Quitting smoking is the #1 best thing you can do, and new research has proven that to be true, whatever age you decide to quit.
Yeah, that study you talk about, Jack, in people over 30 who quit smoking have a 17% reduced risk of cancer than those who continue to smoke, and a 42% reduction in lung cancer.
And it doesn't matter what age you decide to quit. Of course, earlier the better. But even after the age of 50, it can significantly reduce your risk of lung cancer.
The other benefit of giving up the darts, Jack, is the improved quality of our teeth and oral health in general. Now, on that note, how do you go with your 2 girls and a trip to the dentist?
Oh, my oldest actually got braces, so she's not keen on those. But we're really lucky to have great access to dental care. But in rural areas around Australia, that's not always the case.
At just 7 years old, Hayley Sly has her daily dental routine down to a science.
So I set a 2-minute timer on my watch and I brush lots of different ways. I don't spit. That's what the dentist said. I don't rinse out, but just spit, because it's good to leave some toothpaste on your teeth.
She has a go at brushing first, then I'll have a go at brushing for her. And then she has another go at brushing as well. So we've still got the adults helping, which is really good.
Hayley and her mum Bronwyn thought they were ticking all the boxes. So when Hayley began experiencing not just 1, but 3 nasty toothaches, it came as a very unwelcome surprise.
Come on in.
It wasn't really the nicest thing to have, because it was constantly hurting when I bit.
Keep you nice and clean.
Yeah. We were able to get an emergency dental appointment, and that's when he let us know that she does in fact need fillings and she has holes in her teeth.
Hayley's an interesting sort of a case. She was doing most things right. Her teeth were pretty clean, and I got the impression that the diet was basically pretty good too. She was one of those kiddies who just did not deserve to get tooth decay. And the thought crossed my mind, gee, if she'd been living down in Melbourne, she just wouldn't have the decay that she did.
Hayley and Bronwyn live in Mansfield, a small town in the foothills of the Victorian Alps that doesn't have access to fluoridated water.
We've known for a long time that fluoride hardens up teeth, and it works topically. The teeth get wet with fluoride water, they absorb the mineral, and that means the enamel is just a lot stronger, much more resistant to the acid attack that occurs when plaque builds up. Brushing on the outside is actually pretty easy at the front, it gets a bit harder at the back.
Dentist Mark Knapp moved to Mansfield from Melbourne 7 years ago. Since relocating, he's been treating decay in baby teeth twice as often as he did in the city.
It's fun interacting with kids, it's fun treating them, but it's not fun having to give injections, not fun having to drill. The worst thing that we have to do is take out teeth. Sometimes there's simply no alternative. If we don't take out teeth, there's going to be ongoing pain. It's upsetting for the patient, it's upsetting for the family, and it's certainly no pleasure for the dentist. It's, in fact, quite traumatic for the dentist.
Unfortunately, this experience isn't exclusive to one town. A recent study conducted by La Trobe University's Dr Virginia Dixon-Swift shows that thousands of Victorian children are suffering the same dental disadvantages.
I wanted to explore which towns had water fluoridation and which towns didn't. So I began by looking at towns over 1,000 population. And the reason I did that was because the National Oral Health Plan says that towns over 1,000 population, they recommend have water fluoridation. So I explored the census data and looked at the water fluoridation status. The key findings were that we have still about 33% of towns in rural Victoria that are over 1,000 population don't have access to water fluoridation.
Over 50% of children in these towns have above state average rates of decayed, missing and filled teeth. Even more alarming, the rate of dental hospitalisations for these kids is nearly 3 times Victoria's average.
I visited some of the rural towns and I found out about the fact that on a Wednesday there's a general anaesthetic list at the public hospital, and that list comprises mostly of children, young children, who are having their teeth extracted for dental caries, so dental decay, something that's totally preventable, and I found that quite shocking.
I feel like it's not fair because then I have to put up with having sore teeth until we can go to the dentist and get them filled up.
I had heard about fluoride not being in our water, but I wasn't aware of the extent of the effects it had on children's teeth especially, but on everyone's teeth. No one wants to see their children hurt or in pain, so it was frustrating as well. It's not something that we want to happen to anyone, really. A lot of people don't know about this. They don't know that fluoride isn't included in our water, and they don't know what to do to counteract that issue.
There are things that families can do to go that extra mile to protect the teeth. There are supplements. There are extra strong, call them industrial strength toothpastes. So families can take these extra steps to look after the teeth, to harden up the enamel, but they just really shouldn't have to.
The decision as to which towns are going to be fluoridated and which towns are not are one that's made by the state government, and towns don't get to, say we would like water fluoridation. They could say that, but that doesn't mean that they're going to get it because the funding is not readily available. Metropolitan areas predominantly have water fluoridation. Many rural towns don't, and that creates a real inequity between those that live in the city and those that live in the bush. The best outcome we could have is that rural towns do have water fluoridation and that the plants are installed in a timely manner. And I think if we could get 5 towns fluoridated in the next 5 years, that would be a wonderful outcome, but it comes down to funding and political will.
And since that story, Dr Nick, other areas are experiencing similar problems. Cairns is witnessing double the amount of tooth decay than other regions of Queensland. They think because of the lack of fluoride in the water supply.
Yeah, because fluoride gets incorporated into the enamel, which makes it more resistant to decay. But for some reason so far, the Cairns Council have been a bit reluctant to follow the lead of other Queensland cities like Brisbane and Townsville, Gold Coast.
Well, it is one area that I have been always fastidious about, and that is teeth and oral health in general, I have to say.
Yeah, well, good on you, Jo, because poor dental health has been shown to be associated with an increased risk of all sorts of problems, heart disease, diabetes, even dementia.
And what about, for me, I've always been quite panicky as a mother about when my daughter has had a fever, particularly when she was little.
Yeah, well, you and pretty much every other parent, Jo. But I always reassure people that fever is part of the body's defence mechanism. And, of course, kids can spike temperatures much more easily than us adults. And so the trick is treat the person, not the thermometer. So if the kid's basically OK, you may not need to go to the hospital. To find out more, here's paediatrician Dr Anthea Rhodes.
So fever is when the body temperature is above what we would call normal. It actually depends a little bit on where you measure it and even with what you measure it and what time of day, but generally speaking, above 38 degrees is considered a fever. A fever is a sign that your child's immune system is working. In most cases, that's to fight off a simple infection, usually a virus, but there are some cases where it might be more serious, and there are things parents need to look out for that would be reasons to get their child seen by a doctor. At the Royal Children's Hospital, we see fevers all the time. 50% of preschool-aged children had had a fever in just the last 3 months alone. A lot of parents are a bit confused about the best way to respond to a fever if their child is experiencing one. In our study, we found that over 80% of parents believe that they need to lower their child's body temperature if they have a fever. This was usually because they're worried that the fever itself is harmful. In fact, that's not the case, and the types of things that parents are doing that we don't recommend include giving their child a cool bath or perhaps putting them in the shower, taking their clothes off to cool them down, or giving them medicines just to lower the body temperature. These things are not needed and in fact not recommended. So if your child is unwell and the body's under stress, it can actually be harmful to cool them down. Putting them in a cold bath in particular might cause more stress to the body, so it's much better to leave your child without that cooling process to actually stabilise their body temperature on their own. So the first thing to do is keep your child comfortable. That might mean pain relief if they're also experiencing pain or discomfort from whatever is causing their fever. They might have tonsillitis, it's causing a fever and a sore throat. It's a really good idea to give them some medication for that sore throat. It's also important to keep up their fluids. When children have a fever, it's a little bit like they're exercising or going for a run, so they can become dehydrated quite easily. So make sure they're keeping up the fluid and also getting some rest. It's common for children to feel exhausted when they have a fever. As adults, you might have experienced a fever that you can remember yourself, and it can be really quite tiring. Even as the body temperature is coming down, it's often important for a child to get some rest.
If the 2020s have taught us anything, it's being able to Google, to email, to text, to snap, you name it. It's 24/7 media communication at every turn. And it's not just what it does to the world around us, but the impact it has on our minds too. So if you're up for a digital declutter, we'll show you how after this.
Nick, have you caught up with the latest news from Elon Musk? He's just announced that one of his companies has, for the first time, implanted a device in a human brain.
Yeah.
Extraordinary.
Yeah, well, he's been doing this through his mind-computer interface company, does a thing called Neuralink. And, of course, there are huge potential benefits for people, say, paralysed or missing limbs, being able to control devices just with their thoughts. That, on the other hand, does seem to become a bit creepily close to mind control.
It does raise a few ethical questions, doesn't it, about where that might end up in the future. There's no doubt we're going to hear more and more about it. Are we going to have half cyborgs, half humans? But, Neil, I think of the amount of time that I spend on a device, it's got to be having a negative effect on your brain.
I mean, there are real concerns, Das, about device use impacting our short and long-term memory. And, of course, we are handing over things like remembering passwords to autosave and then using Google for finding out facts, or more often fiction. They've actually coined a term for handing over this memory, and it's called digital dementia.
Well, I think about having a break from my devices all the time, or a full digital detox, and the amount of tech that's in your world now, trying to clean that up has some real appeal to me. I'm keen to find out more. Let's take a look at this story.
So digital detox is a evidence-based strategy to support the impact that technology is having on our lives. If we look at the statistics, science shows we check our phones every 15 minutes. All of this technology, whether it's on our mobile phone or in our inbox, on our desktops, on our laptops, on our iPads, we have this 24/7 overwhelm with our digital clutter. The impact then is up all night, not getting any sleep, leading to greater agitation, leading to depression, leading to greater anxiety. So it is a spiral down. What we want to do is help individuals to break that ever so gradually. So digital detox, in essence, is saying, I am going to carve out a certain portion of time where I'm going to eliminate or detox from the technological impact in my life. I'm going to have a duration of time where I'm not going to be on my phone or my desktop, and I am going to rebalance and get out in nature and do things that are aligned to my well-being. And this is not just our younger generations. 70% of parents are impacted by disconnection due to social media. Our little ones are connecting to iPads and iPods before they can walk and talk. So what we want to do is take control of this. And so a really wonderful two-step process is validation and open communication around this. So it's about moving out of judgment with our children and our adolescents, because their world is a digital world. And so when we can view it through their lens and validate, I hear you, I get it, all your friends are on social media, it is part of your life. And empowerment is asking open-ended questions with your end goal in mind. So it might be something like, what do you feel that you could do to get out in nature more? Why do you think it's going to be beneficial in order to do this? So when you can approach your conversations with your teenagers around empowerment and acknowledgement of their intelligence and of their capacity to make good decisions, they are going to feed off that message and they are going to come up with solutions for themselves. We are biological beings existing in an increasingly technologically driven world. So the key to this is not fighting digital. It's about making friends with technology and taking purposeful action to rebalance within this technological world while still respecting the fact that we are biological beings.
Jack, I feel I know the answer to this.
Yes.
Are you an all tabs open, phone, laptop, tech, multitasker kind of person?
I'm an actual nightmare. That's what I would say. Tech is my entire life, except when I'm out in nature with my animals. It's the only time I switch off. And speaking of nature, Joe, in the Blue Mountains right now, there is a top secret project underway to bring back a majestic native tree thought to have gone extinct millions of years ago.
This is so beautiful, Jack. The Wallamai pine thrived 91 million years ago, back with the dinosaurs, but an off-duty ranger stumbled across a grove of the prehistoric giants in the mid-90s in a find that they described as the botanical discovery of the century.
Isn't that fabulous?
Amazing.
300 seedlings have been planted in these top secret locations. The public can't get to them in an effort to bring the species back.
And get this, the Wallamai pine grows 1 centimetre a year and has to reach 20 to 30 metres to reach maturity.
It actually grows so slowly, doesn't it? I think my kids grow even faster than that.
Well, we love supporting nature and we love supporting our tweens as they discover their personal care. But with the explosion of adult skincare on TikTok, what products actually are appropriate for our preteens?
We all remember when we were young, writing a list for Christmas for Santa Claus that might have the latest Nintendo game or, a skateboard. Forget that. Now it's all about skincare. TikTok has been a huge influence on our young population, and it's really common for young people to see skincare as a trend to get themselves into, out of enjoyment, as something to share with their friends and family. Some of these kids really don't understand the harm that they could be doing to their skin by using skincare that's inappropriate for their skin type. So we call a tween someone between the ages of 8 and 12 before they hit their real teens. One of the reasons we do look great as young people is that our skin is light, bright, full of collagen and elastin. Skincare that's designed for adults often contain quite potent, over-the-counter ingredients that can cause skin irritation, burning, pigmentation, or inflammation. And when a young person's skin is exposed to a skincare active that it shouldn't be, it can cause a whole lot of pain and perhaps even permanent skin problems, such as acne breakouts and hyperpigmentation. A really great example is the use of alpha hydroxy acids, particularly at high strengths, that may be employed by adults who have acne-prone skin or are looking for anti-aging benefits. If you take a young person's skin and expose them to this very harsh chemical, you can cause quite a significant amount of trauma to the skin, accelerating the aging process. There are a couple of products that I really would steer tweens away from, and that includes serums and eye creams. Delving into skincare at a young age can engender good routines, such as cleansing, moisturising, and certainly using a sunscreen. I'd encourage parents to have really open conversations with their tween about the necessity of the skincare, but also the potential risks. But rather than shutting them down completely, take them to your local pharmacy or chemist and show them some of the really good skincare out there that are at a more accessible price point and can be really helpful to young skin, rather than quashing their dreams completely of using some of the favourite products.
A recipe without meat doesn't mean it can't be filling or delicious. And my Moroccan roasted carrots with citrus garlic aioli is guaranteed to ignite your inner vegetarian. Preheat the oven to around 180 to 200 degrees Celsius. Drizzle the carrots with extra virgin olive oil to soften the skin and help absorb all the divine seasonings. I'm loving the combo of cumin, coriander and cinnamon. This Indian mix of spices brings both bitter and sweet flavours. Toss them all together so the carrots are evenly coated. We're looking for a gorgeous honey caramel colour. That's when you know they're cooked. Now for the aioli. Rule number 1 is use room temperature egg yolks. It will help them emulsify with all the other ingredients, especially extra virgin olive oil. Eggs are rich in protein, vitamins and minerals, which you need for a balanced, active lifestyle. Patience is key here to avoid a broken aioli. If you find oil seeps from the sauce or just doesn't thicken, add another egg yolk. The carrots are done, and while they're hot, I'm adding a bit of crunch. Plus some extra textures. There's a lot of flavours clashing here, but trust me, it all works. There's zest, acidity, sweetness, softness and tanginess. Oh, a total treat for the taste buds. Get Nourish is brought to you by Swiss Wellness. Support strong, healthy bones and help maintain bone mineralisation with Swiss Ultiboost Vitamin K2.
Darcy, we know that Easter is not far away, and we can tell that because of all the chocolate eggs and hot cross buns that are basically everywhere.
Well, Easter for me, Jack, is all about the Good Friday appeal, raising money for Melbourne's Royal Children's Hospital. And can you believe this year is the 93rd staging of that event?
The Good Friday Appeal is an amazing charity that supports so many children and their families. And one of those families is Nicole and Matthew Verrocchi. They've supported the appeal since 2020 when their 2-year-old son, Rafi, was diagnosed with leukemia.
Jack, we've been following Rafi's progress really closely and happy to report today that he is doing remarkably well, which is great news.
To say thank you to the hospital for all that they do, the Verrocchi family has set up an online fundraiser for the Good Friday Appeal in Rafi's name. And mum, Nikki, is raising even more money in a foot and heartwarming way.
I started Bambi Mini Co at home during the depths of COVID back in 2020. I had 2 little babies at the time. Unfortunately, Rafi was diagnosed with ALL, which is acute lymphatic leukemia. Royal Children's Hospital played a pivotal role in getting Rafi back to full health. Doesn't matter what time of the day, what injury or illness, you're always welcomed with open arms and treated with the utmost care from all the amazing professionals there. And I guess there was just an instant strong alignment with the Royal Children's Hospital. So we started personally fundraising for the Good Friday Appeal. We created our Super Socks. Rafi designed the Super Bolt, which is our brave superhero, and then Flossie designed the rainbow, so we've got Hope, the resilient rainbow. So you can purchase our Super Socks from any Victorian Chemist Warehouse stores for $4.99, and all the proceeds will go directly to the Good Friday Appeal. We raised just over $136,000 last year. Our goal is to double that, but if we surpass that by any means, we'll be so over the moon. Rafi's doing incredibly well. He's now 6. He's started prep. He's playing soccer, cricket, basketball, just living a normal life that a kid should be living and just having the best time.
Darcy, check these out. These are the adult versions of the Bambi minis. Aren't they cute?
They suit you, Jack. The adult ones are not for sale, but the minis that I've got in my hand here, Jack, are, and they're available at Chemist Warehouse stores right across Victoria, or you can purchase them online. And the great news is all the proceeds go to raise funds for the Royal Children's Hospital.
I'm definitely going to have to get my kids a pair of those Bambi minis, but I think these are fab. Nikki's done so well with the designs. So, Nikki and Matt, thanks for all that you do to support this really worthwhile cause.
There's creams, serums, gels, a seemingly endless amount of products that can be applied to the skin to achieve a healthy, youthful glow. But what can be done from within? Collagen is the most abundant protein in the body, accounting for 30% of the body's total protein. It's found in connective tissues like muscles, tendons, and ligaments. Plus, it's responsible for the skin's firmness and elasticity. When we're young, we have a high abundance of collagen that helps keep the skin taut and smooth. But as we age, collagen production slows, causing us to lose that natural, youthful appearance. Poor diet or exposure to UV light can produce free radicals that can damage collagen too. Collagen can also be found in powder and tablet form that encourage natural collagen formation within the skin dermis, as well as supporting skin structure and integrity. Collagen supplements should contain other skin-loving ingredients too, like vitamin C, to help reduce the damage caused by free radicals, and grapeseed to help prevent the breakdown of skin elastin. People say that beauty comes from within, and with collagen giving that extra boost from the inside, they just might be right.
Well, the best way to look after your skin is to clean it, eat well, and look after your insides. In other words, your gut. And I think, Jack, a lot of people are kind of squeamish around words like bowel or poo. But if you're human, obviously your gut and all of its movements is just a natural part of our bodies.
Jo, you were right. And it is remarkable that things like x-rays, catheters, and even tiny little cameras can be used now to diagnose digestive disorders.
I think I've had all of those. But now medical engineers in the US have created a pill-sized sensor device that can be swallowed and detect gastrointestinal issues. Amazing.
And what's really great about this is that you can actually track it through the digestive tract, and it's not invasive. So when it finally does get the go-ahead, it'll be a real game changer.
Well, it really does all boil down to what we put in our gut, including just before we go to bed. So here's Jade with how to make a hot cup of beauty before bedtime.
The saying, getting your beauty sleep, is not an old wives' tale. It's a way of life in my world. That's why you'll see so many skincare lovers layering their serums, their moisturisers before bedtime. But beauty also starts from within. The Evening Alexa is Wellco's freshly launched nightcap that delivers all your skin dreams while you sleep. This antioxidant-rich, naturally sweetened hot chocolate supports skin collagen formation and assists with healthy glowing skin from within. Known as a hot cup of beauty, the 12-ingredient formulation includes botanical extracts, natural vitamin C, and magnesium and niacin. Simply mix 2 teaspoons into around 200 ml of warm water or a milk of your choice around an hour before bedtime or when you choose to relax and unwind. The release of the Evening Alexa is celebration enough, but it also coincides with the 10-year anniversary of Wellco, plus the founder Elle Macpherson's 60th birthday. Can you believe she's 60? If her skin is anything to go by, sign me up for some beauty rest right now. Is it too early to go to bed, like now?
Well, we said at the top of the show that it is International Women's Day, which is all about celebrating the achievements of women all around the world, you and me both.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I would like to call out women farmers who have been the unsung backbone of agriculture for centuries, those that have grown crops and raised animals, including my sister, who breeds beautiful chickens.
Fabulous.
Gorgeous.
Really? She's a chicken breeder, is she? I wouldn't have, is that for the eggs or for the pleasure or?
No, because it's just a joy spending time with chickens.
Well, we spent a lot of time in the house when I was talking about communicating with animals. We learned about dogs wagging their tail and how there's some messages in that apparently. Even talking to cats. It's getting a bit weird here.
Well, it's about to get weirder because you can actually talk to chickens. Yes, they've done a study into chook talk and it found that 69% of people could tell the mood of a flock of hens. They could tell when the hen was excited by the way it clacked and clucked and when it was annoyed, when it missed out on food.
Ah, well, maybe it was still peckish. I'm sorry.
The best thing about the study, Jack, was that it was aiming to increase the understanding in the chicken farming industry about the emotional state of the birds and so help improve their care. Plus, to help strengthen the bond between chicken and human.
Good point, Nick. I think we actually need to create a list of the animals we do want to communicate with.
Well, listen, if we've learnt nothing else on this show, it's that there is a study for everything. So maybe we need to study into that.
Well, that's all we've got time for today. Thanks to Dr. Nick, to Jacqui Felgate, to Joe Stanley here on the House of Wellness.
Tune in to Luke Hines and Gerald Quigley on House of Wellness Radio every Sunday.
And you can check out our latest House of Wellness Lift Out with Olympian Liz Clay on the cover.
Thanks as always to our great friends at Chemist Warehouse. We'll see you next time.